Hello, I'm Anna and welcome to Ashgrove TV. Have you ever thought an injury had finally gone, only for it to come back a few weeks or maybe months later? Is it your back? Is it your knee? Maybe your shoulder, Achilles, or something else? We're very aware that recurring injuries are common, so today we're going to look at why. Could be bad luck, is it because we get older, or is there usually a reason? Joining me is our highly experienced senior sports specialist, Jay Sheridan. Together we'll explain why some injuries become repeat visitors, what often gets missed, and most importantly, what you can do to reduce the chances of them returning. As always, if you have any questions during the show, pop them in the comments and we'll answer as many as we can. So, welcome back, Jay.
Hello there, Anne.
So why do people have injuries that keep returning?
Oh, it's such an expansive question, that, isn't it? And there's a lot of reasons for why that happens. Actually, I know on the last show we spoke about running injuries, about how they happen, and sometimes recurrence of them. And I think this is a lovely little segue into this area. Normally, there's a misconception in a patient that when their pain starts to diminish, which is of course positive, none of us want to be in pain, that they're better.
Yeah.
It's not the case, unfortunately. Right. So it's a sign of recovery, of course, but the pain sign will often go a little bit quicker than the muscles repairing. So you can see the danger here. Oh, I'm not in much pain. You know, say if you're lifting some weights, I'm not in much pain. I injured one of my, muscles of my shoulder when I was doing a shoulder press. So I can do it again, and oh God, it's gone again on me because the tissue hasn't had enough time to repair. So I think that's often when people come in the clinic and it's happened again. I just tried it. I know I shouldn't have done, but it felt good on the day and I tried it. And I'm like, it's not a disaster. We've proved we can get you there and we'll get you there again. But it is that you must remember your pain sign will come down before that injury or that tissue, and I mean muscle, ligament, tendon, whatever, is actually fully repaired, because it can be a long process, the repair phase of
And
tissues.
Is there an average time period that it takes for someone to properly repair from an injury, or is that really changeable, different?
Yeah, it is changeable. Some people do seem to heal a little quicker than others. I think, again, that could be part of whether they're doing the correct rehabilitation exercise, whether they're living a good, healthy lifestyle, a good diet, good sleep, hydration, and things like that. Textbooks I always used to find, and sometimes still do find, that everything seems to work in 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 weeks, 6 months, etc., etc. The truth is, it is different for everybody, but it won't be wildly different. So, even the slightest muscle injury, and I say injury, not tear, because if I use the word tear, people think, oh, it's torn away from the bone or something. Sometimes it has, if it's catastrophic. But even those, you could be looking anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks.
Right.
Because there is a difference in an injury than just a bit of pain, of somebody decorating and then the shoulder's a little sore for a day or two, then it's gone. It's a massive difference. That was just not used to being loaded for that long with a paintbrush or whatever, whereas these things tend to build up over time.
Yeah, and in my practice, we talk a lot about understanding the root cause of why somebody has a particular symptom. Yeah. So could it be that the injury itself has improved, but the root cause hasn't been addressed, and so going back to the activity has essentially meant the injuries come back again? Yeah,
I think really that is the main reason they do reoccur.
Right.
Unless there's something anatomically sort of hereditary with that patient that's going to set them up to keep, then we'd address that in a different way. But for most people, there's this thing, it never translates very well. It was from this Greek chap, like literally thousands of years ago, and it's basically where the pain is not where the problem is.
Right.
Okay,
So
different if somebody kicks you, that's where your injury is, but it's normally stemming from something else. So we'd call that, in my line of work, a biomechanical or kinesiology, i.e. a movement issue with somebody that's causing that problem.
And is it often quite a surprise to people when they've come to see you and you say, actually, it's not really your knee, it's something else?
Yeah, although not as much. You know, it's interesting you say that. If you would have suggested that 10 years ago, because I've always worked in this way of assessing, which I hope most people do, assessing the whole person rather than just where the injury is, people were very, very against that. But it hurts there. But when you start to explain, for this to work, this needs to do this, this needs to do that on the ankle joint, and this is why I think it's happening to you. And if we will treat the area where there's pain and injury, because of course we need to, we want to speed up the recovery, but it's only 50% of the job then, isn't it? Because, you know, you could rub your hands with glee and go, oh, just keep getting this person back, but you're not really doing your job. You've got to address the movement pattern of that person and frankly correct it if you want to stop that injury returning.
And should they change the activity they're doing? Does that mean that the particular
It could mean that initially.
Right.
Okay, if we know that that is really exacerbating a sign and symptom of the issue, it may need to stop, or we could actually look at refining their movement pattern. Show me how you do this movement. Okay, well, what we could do is, we're not going to go, well, that's wrong, that's wrong. What we can do is, we're going to try it this way. Subtly adjust them. Get them doing it in front of you. So this person, say, shoulder pressing. No, you're too far forward, you're too far. Let's get you like this. Let's get you doing this. Does it hurt? Well, no, it doesn't hurt. Then we can do it. And that relates into the pain cycle of things. That if you can do a movement without pain during and not after, why are you not doing that movement?
Right.
You know, so for instance, it's not as simple as if somebody had a knee problem. We can't do anything that involves a knee. Oh, we don't want to, because you may find that patient can do many things with their knee, but they may not be able to do their sport of choice with that knee right now.
Right.
Until we get them a little bit better and get them moving in a little bit more of a healthier way as well.
Okay, so 3 to 6 weeks is kind of injury time.
Yeah, and I hate saying it because, I mean, there's been the anomaly where somebody will seemingly have a bad, say, hamstring tear, these muscles around the back of our thigh, and yet within I mean with bruising, yet within 3 weeks they've fully returned with strength and everything. So you do get the odd anomaly. So I wouldn't want any viewers to think, oh, as soon as I'm out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but it does take time to heal tissue. Muscle takes time, tendons take more time, ligaments take even more time because of the nature of the fibre makeup, if you like, composite fibres. So
for anyone who's at home at the moment, who's experiencing pain, has an injury, they're in the rest period, is there anything else that you would suggest that they would be doing now at home to help improve the injury recurrence rate?
Yeah, so much you can do. There's loads of home rehab stuff you can do. Obviously we'd want that to be guided by one of us guys to know that you're doing it correctly. We are very fortunate enough at Ashgrove Clinic to have some software that we use for our rehabilitation. So instead of the whole, here's a stickman diagram, go and do those, what we have is a visual and audio cue for somebody to watch videos of someone performing the correct movement, so that person can get comfortable with the movement. Of course, we can't be there. We have to trust they're doing it correctly, get comfortable with the movement, and then there we go. We can get you doing stuff daily. If there's an exercise on there that's not working out, we have literally hundreds more we can swap one out for another. And that's really helped us so much at the clinic, having this software.
Yeah.
Actually, alongside some new software I've just obtained where we show you your muscle, its action, its movement, show you how it gets injured, and as soon as that patient can see and make sense of it, instead of it being a mystery to them, we know we can get them better even quicker, believe it or not, because there's a psychological aspect of that patient knowing, oh, I know what's happened now, so therefore I know what to do to get myself better a little bit with a little bit of help from us.
Yeah, knowledge is...
It's including the patient in it, because that patient, when they come to you, are going to be really low if something keeps reoccurring.
Yeah.
It's a bit like your boiler keeps breaking down in winter. You're going to get a bit down about it, aren't you? And you're going to start doubting yourself. You're going to start thinking it's your sport choice or your exercise choice is incorrect. And 99% of the time, that's just not the case. It's not incorrect what you've chosen to do. You just haven't done the right stuff to start with. And patients get bored of me saying this, but the analogy is the house being built. You got bad foundations, you could build the most beautiful house on top of that, but if it's shaky, you're going to keep getting injured. So we start from the base up with these patients. So you're going to go back a bit, and I don't always like it. We're going to stop you doing some stuff. We're going to get you doing some exercise stuff that you may not find exciting. But if I tell you if you do this, this injury will not reoccur, they'll buy into it, and rightly so, because it will improve dramatically.
And how much time would somebody have to input at home from your sort of plans and exercises that you recommend?
It's a really good question. Now, people are going to be thinking, oh, it's ages. We don't overload patients with exercise because it's overwhelming as it is when you're injured. We only ever pick 4 to 5 exercise. They're bespoke, tailored for that particular patient, because every knee patient, every back patient has, of course, some of them exercises overlap, but everybody has different ranges of movements, different things they can do. So I ask normally 20 minutes per day. Oh, really? For certain patients, it will be twice a day. For certain patients, new acute, which we call a new injury phase, acute phase, there may not be daily, maybe a day on, day to recover, back onto the day. But it's different for everybody, and that's the thing that makes my job quite fun and exciting, that it is different for everybody. Yeah. Of course, some things overlap, but there's also many different things you can do. And
presumably this technology now that's come in has enabled you to make it even more bespoke for that person and their injury.
Incredible. I mean, going on about injury recurrences, and I say about movement patterns with somebody and correcting them, I have some great software that we use with a tablet that we can measure the degrees of movements of people, so we can see whether their degrees of movement are healthy or if they're unhealthy. Then we correct where they're unhealthy, and lo and behold, wow, their injury ceases to keep coming back. So it's in the movement pattern, correcting their movement patterns. Okay, we've had loads of questions come in following the last show, and so I really want to make sure we cover some of these off. So Jack has asked, should I wear a support when exercising? Ah, yes, I think we spoke about this last time. Jack, depends on your injury. Now, again, let's look at, you look at gyms now, everybody seems to wear back belts. I'm a bit 50-50 with that. Okay. Because I think it gives the feedback to the body that it's stronger than it actually is at that time. Okay, because it's got this support. But if somebody's training for competition, somebody needs to train for the mental health, for everything, wear a support. Yes, they do support joints a little bit, depending on the quality of that support, and they can be very good. These clasper-like things for certain knee problems, which are just like a band, or certain elbow problems, can, again, in the newer phase of an injury, be a godsend for a patient, okay? The word of warning is just don't get too used to wearing it, because it's a bit like a medication. Oh, I dare to not take my painkiller in case pain comes back, and it becomes a little bit like that with the support. I daren't train without my support. You've got to wean that person off the support. Yeah. They are useful, but again, I'm a bit sceptical that they don't quite deliver what the manufacturers will claim that they really do. But if that person feels secure in it, good, wear it. But don't wear it for the rest of your life. No, the goal is to allow your body to... It's a bit like putting a plaster on a cut. You're not going to keep a plaster on that forever, are you? You've got to let it heal a bit more naturally as well, so... Okay, I've got Sarah who's asked, I've sprained my ankle several times. Will that always now be a weakness? They can be. Okay. If we don't do the right stuff. Okay. So that was the caveat, okay? Yeah. So yes, they can. I think most people, when they come in to the clinic with an ankle sprain, so that rolling of the ankle motion, I've normally done it a few times. Now there's different theories about that. When I was young, because my left ankle was prone to that, they will go, well, it's a weakness there because your ligaments that are meant to stop that happening are stretched too much. There's an element of truth in that. The bigger truth is the ligament is not communicating effectively to the brain. To keep things simple, ligaments communicate about our movement patterns, and when they're injured severely, they stop communicating so well. So what we have to do is almost think of a phone or tablet. We have to update it, reset it, and that's what we do to nerves and ligaments through exercise prescription. So rehab, we get that ligament learning that actually that patient, Sarah in this case, doesn't necessarily have to have a reoccurrence of that ankle sprain. If we went a little bit deeper, just very briefly, it could be that there's a joint within the ankle that can move quite violently and stay moved. So that means everything around that ankle, the ligaments, even tendons to a point, are under strain constantly. So Sarah will probably keep, unfortunately, do it. So again with that, that is a practitioner thing. You come and see somebody at the clinic or wherever Sarah's living, go and see somebody, get them to check the joint out and get them to check out her ankle joint, get them to check out her knee and also her hip joint, because if there's problems further up for Sarah, it could just be that that's happening because there's a problem further up.
Yeah. And how soon would you like to see somebody following an injury or even a recurring injury? So,
well, because I used to work more in sport solely with football and rugby teams, you'd be straight on it.
Of course.
So I still have that attitude towards things. There is the odd time where I say to somebody, let's just leave this thing 2 or 3 days, let me see the mode of it. Look, obviously if it's really bad and she's like, no, it's bruised, I suspect I may have fractured it or something, off you go and get try and obtain an x-ray or something like that.
Yeah.
But I like to see things quite soon, purely because there's lots we can do in the interim. It may just be advisory.
Yeah.
But we've got to start, look, that patient is not going to want you pressing hard on them and messing that joint around or that muscle around too much, new injury. And you shouldn't either, because new collagen fibres, so new tissue fibres are coming to try and repair in that area. But the answer to your question is, because of that, we need to make sure we do see them quite early, because we'll get something called scar tissue formation otherwise. So if you think at the minute your muscles glide quite nicely like this, when they tear, that collagen fibre that's here just gets splatted down in any shape or form.
Yeah.
So we get sticky, and we know that that can start sticking to other muscles, believe it or not, in extreme cases. And it just means there's your recurrence of injury, isn't it? Because this is not working so well, everything around it is working more, and actually this never really repaired right. And that is a really good reason why people have recurrent hamstrings or quad injuries or muscular injuries. It never really, that scar tissue formation formed in a really unhealthy way, unfortunately. So yes, the earlier the better for me, but this is just my opinion. Some people would say we need to leave it. No, because if you think an elite level sport, they don't just leave it. Oh, we'll just leave you a week and then we'll just pick you up in a week. It would never happen.
Yeah.
It would be looked at and monitored from the minute that injury happens.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Helen has asked, she's had an injury for 15 years. She's battled through it.
Okay.
And wonders if it's too late for you to be able to help, or a specialist to help.
Not at all.
Okay.
Honestly, it would mean Helen would probably be a patient I'd see quite a bit of if she came to me, because of the longevity of the injury. And because everything around wherever Helen's injury site is has adapted to try and protect this injury. It's quite interesting, 15 years on, obviously I would imagine Helen's experiencing something of, say, a flare-up that's led her to message in. And this is a big problem for me. So we call Helen's like a long-term or chronic injury, and people think nothing can be done. You know the old adage, once you've had a lower back problem, you're always going to have a lower back problem? Nonsense. There are certain medical conditions, unfortunately, where some people will have that.
Yeah.
Most people do not. again, it's about looking at that person's lifestyle, their sitting posture, their movement, their exercise of choice, and changing it around. And I relate that to Helen. Let's have a look at you, let's change things around, let's get you on the right kind of exercise.
Yeah.
And see, obviously 15 years is a long time, but tissues, and people forget this, and tissue is anything from muscle, tendon, ligament and bone. People forget, constantly adapting, aren't they? They are right now as we've sat here, they're adapting. So why can't we get them adapting in a positive way? If they can adapt to a negative motion of movement, they can adapt to a positive motion of movement. Fact. So I'd get working with Helen, and Helen would be a kind of an intense bout of probably treatment with someone like myself, actually, to try and correct it, because it's the consistency of trying to change 15 years of this learnt behaviour of tissues.
But it's never too late.
No, never. No, it really isn't, no.
Liz asks, how long should I continue my rehab exercises for?
Good question. Depends on the injury. What I tend to do with my patients is it's all graded rehab. So it could be quite boring stuff to start with, and depending on the patient, it can get quite interesting in the movements they'll be doing. What I tend to say to my patients, that last stage of your rehab protocol then becomes either your warm-up when you're fully fit, or it becomes your strength and conditioning for twice a week to supplement your running, your hockey, your cricket, whatever you play. So really, say for somebody with a back patient, they'd be doing that stuff for the rest of their life.
Right, okay.
Because it's a little bit like the person who stops taking a prescribed medication thinking that they're better, then they find out a few days, a week later, that actually that medication is actually helping them stay well. Same thing with exercise. It's why we call it, it's a pretentious term, prescriptive exercise, but I do like that term because it means that you're going to be on it for life. Because the main thing with a back patient, talking about why injuries come back, and the lower back patient is a classic example of this. Well, my back was feeling good, so I stopped doing the stuff. Yeah, it was the stuff that was keeping you well.
Yes.
Can you put that 2 and 2 together now to work out? It's actually that stuff that was keeping you well. Okay, that person may have been injured, that person may have lifted something in the garden, and that's different. They've sustained a new injury, but generally, it's the stuff keeping you well. So you have to do it really
On a maintenance basis.
Think of it like that. And if you want to take that a step further and say, actually, I don't want maintenance anymore. I want to become even stronger around my core. And remember, the core's not just a six-pack we all wish we had. It's not just here. It's our glutes. It's our lower spine. It's everything around that centre, this axis point here. Then I'll work with you and I'll get you even stronger. But that has to be for you to decide. I can only advise it.
Yeah.
So we can always progress to stop injuries coming back.
Okay. So Pat asks, why does my injury always come back after a holiday?
Deconditioned, I would say. So deconditioning would be, say if Pat's really active, then decides to not be really active, we've got a problem. It's why people, you know, the wife and I, we're that boring couple that always make sure there's a gym when we go away.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be too hard for when I come back to training.
Yeah.
And actually it's quite nice because you're eating a bit more, you're drinking a bit more. I mean, relating that to Pat may be a little bit where she's prone to inflammation.
Yes.
So if she's having a bit more sugary stuff, she's having a bit more alcohol. It could be because of that. So it's not necessarily a deconditioned thing, but it could be that I very much suspect that training actually can keep injuries at bay. It's the opposite of what you might think.
Okay.
By being conditioned, Pat's probably in good health, but we've got to consider she's travelling, she's in a different bed, all that sort of thing as well. So I would say it's probably the fact that the exercise stopped, and then probably when she goes back to doing her exercise, Pat may be crashing into doing exactly what she was doing before her holiday, and her body's gone, wait a minute, you've kept me relaxed for 1 or 2 weeks, and you've got me doing exactly what I was doing
Before
2
I
weeks.
went.
And it comes into what I think we mentioned last broadcast of load management. we just lower you down a little bit, 10-20% of what you were doing 2 weeks ago. Next week you go up 10%, 2 weeks later you're back to doing what you were before. Of course those figures are adaptable, but that's normally how we run. Just dip it back a little bit like you would do after an injury anyway, and then gradually go up a little bit.
So could you go away for a week and do nothing? Is that okay if you wanted to, from an activity basis, but then just lower?
Yes, a little bit.
Restart.
But again, that goes in different ways. Like like I mentioned before, a boxer or a runner would stop. They would have a bit of a tapering thing where they slow down a lot, so they've got their energy for before. So yeah, some people do go and have a break before. But even when you're looking at those sports, most marathon runners will still go and have a 4 or 5 mile run on the Friday before the Sunday, believe it or not. Most boxers, MMA artists and mixed martial arts will still be doing a bit of pad work, be doing a little bit of work to turn over. So in answer to your question, that would be called passive recovery, which is nothing. I prefer active recovery, which is a bit of walking, just a little bit of turning over for me personally. But depending on what level you're at, look, a break's not going to kill you, but don't expect to be as fit as you were a week later when you've just been on a load of drink, a load of bad food for a week, because your body won't be able to adapt so well.
Okay, I've got a question here from Liz. We didn't actually cover this last time, so I think this is really important that we squeeze this in. Arthritis, osteoarthritis,
yeah,
and old injuries. So does an old injury predict the likelihood of getting arthritis?
In some ways it does.
Okay.
I'll be truthful, I've got my thoughts on osteoarthritis, but in some ways it does, because if you've had a broken, tibia, femur, lower leg, typical football injury actually, or you've had repeated, say you're a thrower or you're a bowler in cricket, we know that, say, pitchers in baseball, virtually 100% of professional pitchers will have shoulder surgery and have osteoarthritis of the shoulder joint, virtually all of them, right, because of just that such aggressive motion of that repetitive action, which is very extreme. Yeah. So, yeah, an old injury can predict that you will see osteoarthritis, but it's not as simple as that, because we also know that old injuries around joints can switch muscles off. So when we switch off, say, the muscles of the knee, so when I mean switched off, they're not as effective, or that person becomes less active, right, then we know that joint's not supported, because there's an age-old quote which I absolutely love: joints act, whether elbow, wrist, shoulder joints, think joint, muscles react. Okay. So the muscle is always working in relation to the joint. So if that joint has had problems, if it's actually had a lot of trauma, that will mean the muscles will often switch off. And that's the bigger problem about osteoarthritis. Not wear and tear, not all this crepitus, as we call it. We're all going to get a little bit of that as we age. The big thing to do is the opposite of what people think. I better not do anything on that joint. It's the opposite. It's rubbish. Do more strength work. Be it guided with a PT, be it with one of us guys, but do more work around that osteoarthritic joint. So if that seems controversial with people, have a look and research into it, and you will see I'm right on that we've got to work the muscles around the joint to preserve the joint. Yeah. It can only get weaker if you don't work it. Yeah. And but so that means not full-heartedly, I'll do loads of jumping, I'll do loads of stuff where I'm landing on my knees. Of course not. But all the muscles around the joint. Yeah. Brilliant. So on that note, we've ran out of time, believe it or not. 30 minutes gone. So it's all we've got time for. A huge thank you to Jay for explaining why recurring injuries aren't simply bad luck, and why treating the cause, not just the pain, is so important. If you'd like one of our team to assess an injury that's keeping you from doing what you enjoy, we'd be delighted to help. Join us again next month for another episode of Ashgrove TV, where we'll be looking at knee replacement rehab with our amazing physiotherapist, Pierre. Pierre will be explaining what he did for our osteopath, Stephen. Thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.